Phil and Rye on Listen Up. Rye, as you can tell, we have a very special guest. And I know, Ryan, that you think that this is long overdue. It's not her fault. It's more or less my fault, right? We've been talking about this since the spring. Head coach, not head coach, assistant coach. Don't want to start any rumors there, Ryan.
Yeah.
Assistant coach at UConn, Morgan Valley. Look, we can't appreciate you enough for coming on with us today. Ryan, I know you want to shout out to her, so I will let you ask the first couple questions. How this is going to start, Morgan Valley, is we're going to ask you a couple questions here that has to do with earlier in your career. I'll
Mhm.
ask you about this team and what we got going on, but you can start off with any comments you have. But again, from Ryan and I, we thank you so much for coming on with us today.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, it's been a couple months now. We've been trying to get this thing together, so
Yeah.
glad it finally happened.
Yeah, well, like Phil said, thank you so much for coming on. And I wanted to start by asking you and taking you back to your playing days at UConn and what it was like to win three straight national championships as a player at UConn and how that's kind of helped you and how have you used that experience to help you coach on the teams that you have been a part of, and especially here now coming back to UConn since you already played under Coach Gino.
Mhm. Well, I think when you're 18, 19, 20, and you're in those situations, you don't really understand. You're like, oh, this is cool. And then at the time we had gone to four straight Final Fours, our class. Um,
Yeah.
so it was like, oh, this is what we do. Like, yeah, this is normal. And it wasn't until I got to my first job that I was like, oh, that wasn't normal. Like that was, and then, you talk to friends. We didn't have cell phones until like my senior year of college. We didn't have, we had AIM. We didn't have all the technology that's out there now. You had to pay for your text messages, word by word. So it was like, we didn't communicate with people like that. So I didn't realize until after, talking to friends that played at other schools and, how unique and special it is at UConn. I had the feeling, I didn't really know until later in life, but, it was unbelievable. Some of the best years of my life. You have your friends, just the room over, you can see anytime you want. And it was, amazing couple years. So
Yeah,
What is it
I
like to kind of deal with those expectations when you get new recruits and get new players coming into UConn? Do you guys have to kind of coach them up about the high expectations that some of these players have coming in? Like you said, here at UConn, there's always a lot of expectations that you guys kind of always being expected to make the Final Four, winning the national championship. What is it like when some of these new players are coming in?
we hope that we recruit players who do that with their AAU teams and do that with their high school teams and are winners in all areas, academically, on the court, kids that put the effort in everything that they do, not just, in on the basketball court. So it's not something we talk about every day. It's not something that it's just, let's go out on the floor and let's work. Let's get in the weight room and let's work, and let's
Yeah.
get in the classroom and let's work. And it's not really something that is common to talk about every day or all the time. It's now at this point in Coach and CD's career here, it's like, hey, we're trying to win a national championship. Uh, Come on, if you want to be a part of this, and that everything else just kind of follows. This is how we do things. This is what coach expects every day, um,
Yeah.
and you got to hold yourself to that standard.
Yeah, to go off of that very quickly, all right, and Coach Valley, again, thank you. I wanted to ask, just jumping down the list a little bit on my topics I have for you this morning. What is it like? I mean, to have, it always kind of amazes me to see like Paige Becker's, for instance, KK Arnold, or any, not even on the UConn team, but any players when they suffer that season-ending loss or when they suffer any loss, to be able to care that much, but still hold their head high, come back strong again. it amazes me even in high school to see, because not all the time on all these teams across the country that I see high school, college, after they lose, or, it still smiles and everybody's different. I get it. But I just love how it seems like every player, to go off of what you said, every player that you guys recruit, or every player at UConn, they have that passion, they care so much, that drive, the will to win. So I mean, does that come with the coach, being assistant coach, you gotta, really hammer that into them, where it's just something that it's just that natural talent that you can spot before they even get to UConn?
I think every player's different. I think,
Yeah.
we try to recruit really competitive players.
Mm.
And if you're competitive, you want to win. And if you want to win, there's certain things that you do every day that you would do in high school. And then when you get here, yeah, the speed is, it's a faster game. The players are bigger, they're more athletic. You're not the best player on your team anymore. You're surrounded by players who are equally as talented as you. So I think all of those things are just adjustments that every college player, even the Pages and Dianas and Aaliyah Bostons and, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, all of them have the same adjustment when they get to college. Some just look easier than others, but everyone's going through those adjustments. And, I think sometimes you have to be taught, this is the pace that you have to work out at. This is the pace that you have to practice at. This is the pace, when we play games, that we play at. And you try to preach that every day, and you do it every day. You don't just talk about it, you do it every day. And then it becomes habit, and it becomes who you are. And so I think every player is different in that. The adjustment could be a couple months, it could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. In their senior year, it finally clicks. So but I think the ones that are the most successful have this desire to compete and are super competitive and work. We have a group this year who, a lot of them, they're in the gym all the time. So any chance they can get, it's not all day, it's not, but if they can get some extra shots up for 30, 45 minutes, that's something they do. And it's a lot of times they're doing it on their own. So that, that makes us happy. That makes us, understand what we have. And I think coach really, really likes that.
And I was
There
gonna
was a
ask you about the current roster this year. How confident are you guys that you can make it back to that Final Four and finally get back to that national championship and win it? We've talked about it a lot in the past couple of years. We've been covering the team about the injury bug, so hopefully you guys can finally stay healthy, have that deep roster, and have what it takes to finally win another national championship this year.
Yeah, I think we have a group that could do something really special. But coaches never, that's not coach's really end game. His end game is not his end game, but he's with the process, right? He likes, this is how we do things. This is what we do. This is what we're going to do every day. And if we do those things, and we stay locked in and we stay focused, and, we can be healthy, there's a good chance that, we'll put ourselves in a position at the end of the year to get what we want. So I think that's more important to us than the national championship. It's doing all of these things that he knows, for the last 40 years have worked in order to make and, help a kid become a national champion. And it's just the day by day stuff.
Thank you so much again. Talking to on Listen Up with assistant coach, got to write that time, Ryan.
There we go.
Morgan Valley. I swear Gino is going to beat me up if he sees this. So we're going to have to make sure, Ryan, that we edit it out the beginning of this, because I feel so bad saying it. Hey, going back to actually, we won't hold you. If you have like maybe 10, 15 more minutes, just let us know if you have to go. We, again, appreciate you a lot. I'm looking at the resume now. According to what I'm looking at, you correct me if I'm wrong here. You spent some time 04 to 05 at UConn as a student assistant. It's listing you as. So then I just was wondering, and of course, a lot of experience. I mean, going down this list there, Holy Cross, New Hampshire, and then some time at Hartford, if I believe that was Division III as a head coach. But going back to the 04, 05, even though it was just 1 year, transitioning, and then that experience, of course, between there. But how was it to go back and work under Gino again when you went back in 2021? Did it help you at all for that, considering that 04-05 year or not really?
Well, minor correction. When I went to Harvard, they were D1 and then they transitioned.
Okay.
So I was
Okay.
the head coach there for
Okay.
2 years.
All right.
Um, but I think my path, the everything that I've been through, that I have been able to experience,
All right.
um, staying here 0405, coach allowing me to be a student assistant, learning how to do scouts, how to scout. Back then it was a lot of film. Like they would get tapes in the office, you'd put the tape in the VCR, you'd watch a kid play, doing evaluations that way, and not necessarily for them, but like it was for me. So it was like, hey, this is how we do a scout. I know you've seen this for the last 4 years, but this is how I go through the scout. This is how I decide what to do. Was really, really helpful. And it was the first time I had ever done that or seen that. I knew I wanted to be a coach. So all of those things were very, very helpful. And then I go on to other places and I learn the way other people do things. And that there's also different ways to do it. So, I grew up in a similar manner as to how we did things here when I was a player. And I was able to learn from other head coaches and assistant coaches that I worked with, and even learned from the players that I coached. There's different ways to do things. And so then coming back, I think it just made me better. It helped me bring something different to the table, as someone who had done all these things and been at all these places. I was lucky enough to be a part of the University of Washington's program when we went to the Final Four there with Kelsey Plum. We won a WNIT championship at Arizona with Adia Barnes. We went to the NCAA tournament with Coach Gibbons at Holy Cross. So all of these really cool experiences I was able, over the last 20 years, I've been able to bring back when I started back in 2021. So I think everything has helped. And obviously being here is different than any other place. And it was different than when I was a player, or when I had that 1 year as a student assistant, but similar at the same time. So.
Ryan, do you have anything to add off of that?
I mean, what is it like kind of coaching those different players? You talked about Kelsey Plum, watching Diana Taurasi, a lot of the legend. I mean, so many legends here at UConn, Sue Bird, and of course this past year with Caitlin Clark, all the news and headlines that she's made, Angel Reese. What is it like, growing up watching some of these players and then coaching some of them, coaching against some of them, and being able to watch all of them make such a huge impact, at the collegiate level and then at the highest level in the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, all the players that I've coached, not even, the Kelsey Plums and the Ari McDonalds, and every player that I've coached has taught me something. And it's I'm like a big process person. Like these are the things I have to do every day in order to achieve something. So it's just part of the process. It's part of, being grateful that I've had opportunities to be at these schools and working with these people, and coaching these young people. It's all just been kind of just it's like what I do. It's part of who I am. I don't really think of it outside of that. Maybe later down the line, there are times like I'm like, oh wow, like I really coached this person, or seeing, I've coached people who are chefs now and doing really well in culinary. Like that's all. It's just like, oh wow, really, this is really cool. Like this person's in school. Like one of my former players just graduated from, just got her residency and got married, and it's like, wow, this is all really cool. Like they're grown-ups now, and I still feel at times like I'm still 21, 22, and I'm definitely not. So it's like I look back, I'm like, wow, that was 15 years ago, or that was 10 years ago. Like, where's time gone? So, it's just kind of, I don't really think, it's kind of like I think of things in the moment. I don't really think outside of that.
Yeah, I have three more quick ones, Ryan, and then I know we're going to turn over to Ryan very quickly at the end here. We had, if you don't mind, one question from a subscriber that hit the mailbag because we reminded everyone that you was coming on and then KK later today, so
Mhm.
they shot us some questions. Very quickly though, I want to shout out to Sean Hurd. He wrote an article, Coach Valley, last week. It came out on Anscape. It was just talking about, it was actually focused on KK, but they had asked her, did you seek advice from anyone on the team or outside of the team to aid you in transition? And she said, of course, there's going to be bad games, but it's about how you impact other parts of the game and just having assistant coaches and everyone hyping you up and just being a comfort spot for you. So I just wanted to touch on that very quickly. Great words of encouragement and what she said there. What is the pressure? I mean, especially, do you feel any extra pressure going into these March Madness games or the tournament? And not only that, I mean, how big is it to just have somebody like KK and all the freshmen that stepped up this year for you guys? Because Ryan and I couldn't talk about it enough. It was truly amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we got really lucky with KK and Ashlyn. They were put in a position that is not normal for a
Mm-hmm.
freshman. Everyone wants to play and start when they get to college, but you might be one of 15 players. Only five can play at a time, and not everyone's going to play. That's just part of college athletics. So when you look around and you see freshmen starting, and then there's freshmen that don't start or don't play that much, it's kind of like, well, you're not really supposed to be doing this. And that wasn't the intention when we brought them here. It just is what happened with all the injuries, and those two in particular, they really just filled these roles, and they did it in such an impressive manner, like never complaining, like never being like, oh, poor me, I have to play 35 minutes. Like, they were grateful even when they were exhausted, which there were times when they were exhausted. They were just so grateful to be having the opportunity, and knowing, like, I'm playing Division I basketball. This is my dream. Both of them, it was their dream to come here, and they're on the biggest stage at the biggest times. And they were unbelievable this year. And there are two people who, again, in the gym all the time, in the weight room, doing extra recovery, extra rollouts, cold tubs, hot tubs, like whatever needed to be done, resting, not doing anything, like listening, being in the gym, shooting, getting extra shots up, working on, KK in particular, working on her pull up, working on her three every day. Like, and that's not an exaggeration with those two. It was every day, watching film, watching extra film. They would watch film themselves, then come in and watch film with one of us and talk about, well, I saw this last night. Like, is this, like, it was an interactive process. And, those are the players you want, right? Those are the people you want to surround yourself with. And they did an unbelievable job last year, and it was a little bit unexpected. That wasn't supposed to be their role. They were supposed to go in and give KK, or give Paige and AZ breathers, give you know Caroline a breather, and it didn't happen that way, and they were amazing.
Yeah,
What
and
are some of your early impressions of the three freshmen that are coming in this season? Sarah Strong, obviously a lot of hype over her being the #1 overall recruit. Of course, Morgan Shelley, Ali Zabel, still really two very talented freshmen coming out of high school. I know me and Phil always during the all season we try to predict, well, what's the starting lineup going to be? What are the impacts that these freshmen are going to have? How's Gino and all these assistant coaches are going to figure out how many minutes, what's the minute spread. So what are some of your early impressions about these three freshmen, and what are some of your expectations how they can impact this team throughout the season?
We haven't really thought about things too far ahead. This summer was a lot of like teaching, showing them, hey, this is, what a handoff is. This is what a stagger screen is. This is how we use a ball screen. And a lot of those things they know, but maybe they haven't been worded that way, or the terminology is different. So just teaching them those things. And then we don't have our full team on the court yet. We still have a lot of players returning from injuries. So that big picture, like what could be, hasn't really hit home. Like we've discussed it and slightly, but it's not been something like, we played 5-on-5 against our practice guys this summer. Like that didn't happen. So it's more like, hey, we can really shoot the ball. We know we can shoot the ball. Now we need to try to score in different ways. Like, let's get into the paint. So, coach was really big this summer on trying to get 2 feet in the paint and making things happen for yourself or someone around you, whether that's a dump down, a kick out, hitting someone on a fill, all of those things. Those are really things that we focused on this summer, more so than, what we could look like, because we didn't have everyone. So,
Yeah.
we didn't really get that opportunity to think that big yet.
Going back very quickly to the take me back to the season-ending loss. I know I really don't want to talk about it. I had to touch on this very quickly. It's actually amazing to Ryan and I still to think, after all the injuries suffered throughout the season, but somehow, some way, you still manage. This team makes it to the Final Four against the one and only Caitlin Clark. 71-69 loss. I know I find myself asking this to several coaches or players I've talked to before. It's I don't know. It kind of a different way to ask this, but I don't know if there is. Is it definitely for sure something, especially a loss like that, and you know what I mean when it came down to the end of the game. Is it something that as an assistant coach, that you keep in the back of your mind, even though you're not the one with the ball anymore, right? That you keep in the back of your mind going into the very next season is something that fuels you and Gino. And do you kind of use that as a message to the players, or obviously they already know how tough it was? Is it something that you guys really want to think about and fuels you, or just push it all to the side? It's done, it's over, move on.
I can only speak for myself, and personally, it's definitely fueled me, from the sense, I've watched the game twice now since the season ended. And it wasn't that last play. There were multiple plays throughout the game, literally from the start of the game to the end. Like, we start the game turning the ball over.
Yeah.
So it's like, those things, those are controllables. And it's like, how can I teach that better? How can I teach us to be better in transition when it's, 3-on-2? How can I help? And Tanya and I work with the guards together. So Tanya and I will have conversations, and I'll ask her, like, okay, she was a very good defender in her day back in Virginia, So, hey, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? And just having those, talking about it, and watching, other teams, watching NBA, WNBA, European teams play, and just constantly trying to get better. I think, it wasn't one play. It was the entire game. We did things that we had been harping on all year, things that were going to hurt us. Even the scout was great. And we did it in bunches, but we didn't do it the whole game. And it's like, why not? Why didn't we do exactly? We said we were going to force her to the sidelines. She got it in the middle. We were going to force it to a side so that she could only use half the floor. And it was like, there were times we just didn't do that. And it's like, well, why didn't we do that? Why did we? So, like, trying to figure those things out more so than anything else. Like, how can I get better at explaining this so that it gets done? And teaching it so that, now as athletes, they're thinking, like, oh, we need to force her to her right because she wants to get her three off going to the left, or
Right.
Stalky, we need to force her to her left because she wants a straight line drive to her right. Like those are all things. It's like, okay, we need to really pay attention to these things. And, if we get beat doing the things that we said to do, that's fine. We're good with that.
Ryan, you want to read Jason's comment, and then I will end it at that, unless assistant coach Valley has anything else for us.
No,
Yeah,
what do
so
you
this
got?
is a question from one of our subs, Jason. He asked, in today's crazy social media and AI environment, what coaching techniques do you employ to protect your players from the negative noise so they can focus on personal growth and what needs to be done between the lines?
I think their world is social media, like TikTok, especially, is really where young people are focused. So you're not changing that, right? Unless they decide, hey, from, like they pull a play off LeBron and it's like off social media and, this is not what I'm going to do. That's on them to do that. I think for the most part, most of our players, they know what they need to be listening to and what they don't. But it's hard. It's like, CD, our associate head coach, she does a great job. Hey, look, these are things that we shouldn't be doing on social media. These are things that are okay. Teaching the players about, kind of things that happen with social media and in general, just what comes with playing here. And then it's kind of up to them to manage that. So, we can't be with them 24 hours. We're not going to be hawking their social media all the time. So, they, for the most part, our kids do a pretty good job managing that. And like I said, CD does a great job trying to help them understand that once they get here every year.
There's always a quote that I loved, Coach Valley. It was truly great people in history never wanted to be great for themselves. All they wanted was the chance to do good for others. And you did good for Ryan and I for sure today. We can't thank you enough. But more importantly, we want you to do a lot of good, and you already have for this UConn program moving forward. So we appreciate you again on this Tuesday morning for coming on Listen Up, and we wish you the best in the seasons ahead.
Ryan and Phil, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.